Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together. Hey, we are so excited to be with you this week. Yes, we love bringing you the information to help you live the life that you absolutely desire and deserve here on the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast. And we're bringing to you today, oh my goodness, the amazing Yasmine Sad. And she is going to she's going to rock your socks. So you're definitely going to want to tune in and listen to this. She is an amazing New York City therapist, psychologist, licensed. She's also a doctor. So Yasmine, I would love for you to dive in and introduce yourself. And I can't wait to share more because you just congratulate with me, everybody. Yasmine just received the Inc. 5000. When her business is in the top 5,000 fastest growing companies in the US. And she also is in multiple media outlets, magazines, because her message is one of impact. And we're going to hear a whole lot more about that. And she's got a very unique approach. So it ties in directly with what we're all about here with the neuroscience. But I love her approach, and I'm always learning from her. So welcome, Yasmine. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Alex. It's such a pleasure. I love you both, and I feel we're so aligned that this is going to be magic. So I'm very excited. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Yasmine Sad. I'm a top-rated psychologist in New York City. I have a global impact. I speak on big stages all over the world. I just did a TEDx in Florence, Italy. I have a group practice that has been ranked in the Inc. 5000 with a lot of psychologists who I trained. I'm very mission-driven, impact-driven. I basically want to educate the world on how to heal from negative thoughts, negative emotion, negative relationship, and how to really decode what is happening in your life, within you and outside of you, so that you can fast track your path to your purpose, to you becoming to your maximum potential, a shiny diamond. So in a little bit, that's what I do.
I love that term decode, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a key. When I hear you say decode, it's like this is the secret key that's really going to help you unlock your greatness.
Yeah.
And when you talked about like the inside outside, I got this visual of a mirror. You know, a lot of times in the leadership space, we're speaking about like the experiences that we're experiencing around us is really just a mirror reflection of what's going on inside of us. So Dr. Yasmine, can you unpack that a little bit more, especially for the listener, if it's the first time they've heard about that, like further understanding this decoding and how what you speak into and help educate others to understand can really, when you tap into that, it's like, wow, it's pretty mind-blowing. I find when you're like, wow, okay, this is what's going on like in my brain.
Yes. So the idea, the concept is, you know, you're born with a body, a mind, and a kind of a soul or spirit, however you want to call it. And they're all constantly giving you messages. They're constantly translating things that they pick up. Like, for example, if you take the mind picks up information from your body state, your emotional state, and the outside environment, takes all that, filter it through your own blueprint, and emits a thought. So you can see how that thought carries information about your internal environment, your outer environment, meaning your life, and your own blueprint with your patterns and everything. So if you were to decode your thoughts, you'll have so much information about you that right now you're not even knowing, that you're disconnected. So the same way that when your body is not well, it gives you pain. That pain's called your attention for you to know what is happening in that area, rebalance that area. The mind does the same thing with thoughts and emotion. And in the same concept, life comes your way to rebalance you in a way that you will never think of. And in a way that it's almost like there's an interaction between you and life that happens.
Yeah.
And so I always like to give this example. What you think internally end up being reflected in the life on the outside. And it goes back to your mirror image. So for example, if I think the road to success is through hard work, effort, and I get my first job, and my first job comes in and it's very clear, it's long hours, a lot of work, but within 2 years, I can have a raise and then become director and become this and become that. That job meets my inner blueprint, my inner pattern. And I'm going to be, yes, that's the road to success. And I'm going to take that job and I'm going to put all the effort that I know I can put, and I'm going to be successful. And I'm going to tell you, you see, the road to success is through effort and hardship, and it pays off.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how you make micro decision where the life that you have on the outside ends up reflecting the life that you believe on the inside.
Wow.
If you take a different person, yeah, I'll let you comment.
Yeah,
Carol.
it's like I really love the way that you're explaining this. You're making it so real and concrete about how our belief systems are reflected in our lives and how we are, as Alex and I talk about all the time, creating our reality, right? Manifesting that reality. And I like the way that you tied together that we are integrated beings, right? With the body, mind, and spirit, and or body, mind, soul, like you said, however you like to look at that. And what then is going on with your system. And so I can't wait for you to share more, yeah, about this decoding.
Yes. So I'll explain a little bit. So you got the idea how our thought creates reality. And the idea is if you were a different person and that job came and you didn't believe in effort and you believe in ease, that success is about tapping into talent, you will never take this job. And you will wait for the job that is a job that is balanced work-life balance, that has good benefit, that is ease, that taps into your talent, and you'll take it and you'll be so successful. And then you will say, you see, the road to success is balanced life, is ease. And both are true. And so that's how, what we believe internally ends up being created externally. Now, most of the world is getting okay with this concept. The other concept that people have a hard time with is, okay, but there are things that happen in my life that I have no agency on, that have nothing. Well, the idea is, well, let's take the same example. Let's say you're the first example that you believe in effort, so you took that job. Well, that effort in that job, you're going to put so much energy that you are going to start feeling tired. You're going to start feeling drained. Like your body start calling your attention to rebalance that. You're actually going to start having things happening internally that rebalance you. Or, you're going to have burnout and you're going to have panic attacks out of all the stress. And you're going to be like, I don't understand, like, what's happening? And you're going to feel a victim of life. When it's actually the inner balances that you had initially that created your decision, that then created more imbalances that are coming back your way. And the feedback loop you get is based on your own imbalances. And so that's why what you see on the outside is asking of you to rebalance. I'll give you a different example of that. Let's say two friends get into a car accident. One end up with PTSD, another one doesn't. Usually, the reason why one has that feedback loop and has PTSD is very much based on the internal makeup. Imagine you have you and you have your friend. Your friend is flexible, go with the flow of life. Whenever there's adversity, look at the positive. So that friend goes through that same accident and is like, okay, I made it. No scratch. I'm good. That was super scary, but I'm good. Their focus was on the good. And so, yes, their body's hurting. Yes, they have to recover. Yes, there's a lot to adjust, but there's no PTSD. Let's take you, for example, and you live your life more in an organized way, where everything, like you have time for your child, you have time for your job, you have time, like everything is so organized. You use to safety through organization, and you get into a car accident that is out of the blue, a sudden shock to the whole system. You're already going to have a very different response than your friend, and that response is going to be already more traumatic. And so the more rigid you get on that, the more then you are inclined to have PTSD. So this is where your response to life is very much a reflection of your inner blueprint. And so people say, I attracted the accident. We can go more into energy, but people have energetically, there is like, if you have a lot of aggression internally, then life will come and to push it out of you, but that's a bit too much of a deeper concept. For most people, they're okay with understanding what I just explained. They're higher levels, but only for people who believe in energy, we can go deep. For most of the people, they understand what I just said because it makes sense. And from there, you can see that everything that's happening in your life has a reaction within you, and you decoding that reaction helps you understand what needs to be rebalanced in life.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking there, Yasmine, the saying that Carol and I often say is like, what we resist persists. And so as you were kind of talking about that, I sort of saw that. And the way you presented it, definitely in that different light of like the decoding, right? Like in leadership, we often talk about like disinformation, right? When something happens, it's leaning with curiosity and kind of looking at, okay, what's coming, what's happening here. And you get to operate from a higher level of leadership to be able to do that, right? Versus if you're, I guess, or operating from a place of more reactivity, right? Or as you said, like in that safety zone, as soon as things are unsafe to our brain, which is out of the ordinary, out of schedule, especially if you are someone that tends to live a little bit more rigidity because of safety, when something kind of comes at you, it might be more challenging to sort of be open to seeing, okay, there's information here. And so I really love how you're presenting this and really breaking this down from this other perspective of seeing that. I mean, I will be honest, I would love to go into the energy a little bit more because I do tend to notice that and see it on others, right? Because of that operation from that place versus, if you are more of the flow and are embracing more flexibility, right? It's for sure. Like I'm Carol and I started with the science. And I think over time we've looked at exploring a little bit more of the energy piece because it's like the yin and the yang, right? Like the way that it kind of all works together. So I know I would love to dive in a little bit more of the energy. Carol, I don't know what
I would have
my curiosity spiked now, right? It's like, okay, like tell me more.
I 100% agree. Yeah, I think because we are vibrational, we are frequency, and even that is scientific, right? It's the quantum is showing us all the time. I mean, Einstein's formula showed us that, right? That mass is simply moving energy. So I would love to talk about this.
I love it. That's exactly where we're going to go. Go ahead, Alex.
Well, I was going to say, I'm just really curious to see because I think that the outside of the world can communicate with us in many different ways. So I'm really curious to dive in from your perspective to see for for ourselves and also for who's listening to this to really look like having just that awareness, even if it's the first time that, you're listening to this, to just have that awareness of seeing what that looks like. And then it's a lot of the curiosity piece that I know Carol and I often lead into, right? When being leaders and just being open to this, right? Because it sounds like that's part of being able to decode it. It starts with that awareness piece.
100%. I think the best place to start is a bit where Carol started, which is actually like every thought you have, every emotion has an energy frequency. Like you can measure, like the same way we measure brain, when people have certain thoughts, they have certain brain waves. Like, so everything is about a frequency that can be measured scientifically, and research on reprogramming the brain and depression and all of this, the intersection between your thoughts and your mind and the movement within the mind, all can be researched and measured through measuring frequencies. Wow. So let's start with that. So
I love that.
So when you
edge
have
of my seat, I'm like literally like on the edge.
I know. Like, tell us more. Yeah.
So when we all have, so then, you take your thoughts, you take your emotion, take the essence of who you are, that emits a frequency. Yeah. And this is how, sometimes you enter a room and your eyes zoning on someone, and I don't know, you just are attracted. You just like it's basically the whole person is a combination of all those small frequencies and create this big magnified energy frequency that our mind, our senses, everything about us can pick up. And people call it intuition, but it's just an attraction. Like, and we all had that. You walk in the room and you're like, oh, this person, no, but this one, yes. Why? It's exactly on that baseline. And so why this person no and why this person yes? Basically, it's the idea that your frequency and that person's frequency go well together. So either they go well together because they're compatible, they become one, they're the same, or they balance each other. But it has to be both. And the way we can translate that back, if you're able to walk into a room, you're like, oh, I don't know why, but I really was drawn to this person. And then you start talking to this person, and suddenly you start realizing, oh my God, you have all those commonalities and similar values and maybe similar upbringing, and you had no clue. And you're like, but I knew I liked you. That is literally the translation of you have a frequency. That frequency ends up being expressed through you, through your values, your desires, your thoughts. And so therefore, when you meet someone, you're attracted to someone, there is either a balancing of the values or a compatibility in the values. And the thing that you hate, you will not be attracted to another person. So that's why, let's say you enter a room and you're playful and you like humor and you have this very serious person. It's just, you're not, it's just going to clash. It's about relationship. And then those two energy frequencies just don't go together. And once you start connecting more, you'll realize, oh yeah, I'm playful and this person is so serious. You both value two different things. And what you value end up being part of the energy frequency that you have, and we all pick up. So what I invite the world is to decode your emotions, decode your thoughts, because it gets you back to your own blueprint. And we can talk about doing that, but the fundamentals is that we constantly attract to our life the things that are going to rebalance us or are compatible with us. So most of the world have no problem with the compatibility because we all want happiness. We all want more of the good. The world has a hard time with what rebalances us, because what rebalances us sometimes is opposite. And so therefore, you want to create your day of fun and playfulness and flow, And suddenly you get stressful phone call, another stressful phone call, another stressful phone call, and you're like, oh my God, I mean, have I attracted this? Like, I'm trying to embody playfulness, happiness. And the idea, yes, you have, but not because you did anything bad here. It's because by embody what you are, you have tilted the pendulum this way and you have overvalued flow, playfulness, and ease. And
Wow.
you have diminished your ability to deal with hardship. So life is always about bringing a balance that you should be as much in flow and hardship as you are in happiness, playfulness. So the moment, and we all veer our pendulum because we all have values and we all want certain things. And the more we hear this as, okay, well, today life is asking me to digest a lot of aggression, or today life is asking me to step up on my flexibility, or step up on my ability to love someone who's coming at me so harsh. But what is it being asked? The first is you have to accept what's coming your way as what you see it, and be aware that what you see is directly related to your value. So if I value peacefulness and happiness and you have a stern tone of voice and you come at me, I'm going to experience you as aggressive.
Yeah.
And you might not be. You might be a very caring person.
Mm.
But because, according to my value, this, in contrast. So what we perceive is totally a product of our reality. So I said a lot, but this is a bit what I wanted to share.
I think it's so valuable, to take this information and to start. What I heard in this was that, even if you're seeking somebody who's balancing you, the lens that you can look through, the perspective that you can take on that is that that's what's happening, that it is balancing you. And so always these things, whether it's compatibility or balance, it is something that's a benefit to you. And I definitely appreciate your lens. Some of the things I've learned from you that have been so interesting is the more Eastern oriented approach that you take versus Western oriented approach. And the way I've seen you um, show us that our limiting beliefs are actually a gift. So, would you speak into that, in light of what you're talking about with decoding?
Yes. So I wanted to go back to Alex's point that everything is a mirror. So because the whole world seems negative, when I talk, I will approach the positive. And so then people think I turn everything into positive.
Yeah.
Isn't that actually the case? I'm trying to create a really balance that what is the way you perceive what's happening in your life and internally is a direct reflection of who you are with your values, with your desires. And so if it doesn't align, you will see it against you. And then our job is to show you the other side so that you can see the for you, so that you tilted the pendulum this way and the against you. We show you the for you. It ends up being, it just is a reflection. It's not against you. It's not for you. It's just constantly showing and reflecting to you where you are in that present moment, where you're going in your future, and the way you're going. So, for example, if okay, I'm craving playfulness, loving day, something, and then I get, I don't know, two surprise phone call from lawyers or something, like something really aggressive. Okay, what is it mirroring? It's mirroring to me, my reaction will mirror my own value and my relationship to that. If I see aggression as, okay, I'll run through the punches, no big deal, it's just something we go through, then I'll be like, okay, well, let me handle this and it will pass. But if I see, no, I wanted happiness, I wanted playfulness, and this contradict, then suddenly I'll have so much frustration, I'll have emotion, I'll have anxiety, I'll have a lot. And so this event was not for you or against you. It just mirrored the reaction you have is a mirror of where your values are at, and it really mirrors the relationship. So everything is a mirror of relationship. So I wanted to make sure, because people have a hard time with a for you for a reason. It is a bit too positive. Um, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of people have a hard time with the against you for a reason. It's too negative. The idea is that things are just a mirror, and life and your reaction, through your reactivity, to go back to Alex's point, that your reactivity is where, oh my God, all this genius information is at.
Yeah.
Because only react to things that are what I call disavowed, that we have pushed, we have named as bad, and we have pushed aside. And they're part of things that we should reintegrate within. We all are aggressive. We all are nice. We all are loving. And we all are not caring. Like we are everything, like the always and always changing. And most human beings only have one intention, one purpose is to be happy and be caring. And they become something else in order to protect themselves, in order to protect others. So we are always everything at once. And so it's really important to notice where your mind got right, where your mind got left, and all of that. And now to go back to your question about Eastern and Western, this is the idea that in Eastern philosophy, everything is included in the one. And that's why I developed the inner message approach, that everything coming through you, a thought, an emotion, life event, internal sensation, has a message because it is related to a vibration, a frequency you have. And if you decode it, you have so much information about what you have labeled positive and negative, what you desire, what you value, your judgment. You can really connect to the essence of who you are just by decoding one thing, one emotion. So the one contains the whole, and the one is always yin and yang with both. And life is constantly pushing us to integrate more and more of the duality of life. And so you will see right now in the world, we all are pushed to rework our relationship with money, rework our relationship with power, rework our relationship to what it means to be loving through the politics. Like there's a whole movement happening in the world where people are like, oh my God, this is so divisive. I'm only felt what I like. And I'm, like we're noticing way much more division, and with a desire to collaborate and to integrate, and you have both extreme, and we're all in a process of reworking that as humanity.
Wow.
It's a lot. There's a lot going on. I mean, my brain is like,
yeah, like
so many different directions. I mean, something that's coming to me, and just knowing a lot of listeners and just even some clients is, I mean, there's two things: curiosity, which I said before, but also this like permission to be curious, right? Like a lot of times I feel, and I know even myself, like experiences happen and we take it face value of like, of, it's like, it's such a negative thing, or especially if you really are working on yourself. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
When you are working on yourself, right? And you have this awareness, and you're doing all the mind work, and you're working on the decoding. And yet sometimes there's those moments where it's like, I think you question, I know I've questioned it. I think, Carol, you might have questioned it too. It's like, I don't get it. Like, I really am working on this, and yet feeling like you are up against the world in a certain sense. Like, have you experienced that with clients, Yasmine? And like, have you, what would you say to speak into that, especially if you do feel like you're doing all the things, and maybe that's it, because you feel like you're doing all the things to really support because your approach is very enlightening, right? It takes the heaviness away, and it's really just about it's about just that awareness piece of being curious.
Yeah.
And when you are really dedicated to this and feel like it's not working, for example, right? And maybe it is, again, I'm asking questions. I feel like I'm answering my questions, like with that control piece, the safety piece. Yeah, maybe maybe speaking into that, maybe with their brain or those experiences to kind of almost like to carry us through this process,
Yeah.
especially even if you might be feeling like you're alone going through this too, and or no one around you gets you right as you're experiencing this.
So, I mean, I think the first step to start is everything makes sense. You might not have the
Mm.
information for it to make sense, but everything makes
Mm.
sense. So if you're feeling you're having a bad day
Mm.
or a negative emotion, like them being there makes 100% sense. And there's actually no need to change them. The
Mm.
difficulty is, as
Mm.
human being,
Mm.
we have this thing that we want to evolve, we want to grow, and we always want to go towards light. And
Mm.
light, we have defined it and naturally as love, warm, hug, like more of the good feelings. And so naturally, we want to shy away from the negative. And we're all constantly working at that. But in reality, the work is not a seeking outside of you, inside of you light. It's integrating light and darkness. That's where you actually reach the light.
Mm.
So a lot of people are, I'm working so hard. Why did I get upset? I'm working so hard. Why is this still coming my way? And I think it's about changing the concept to darkness, to negative, and to see it as negative is the way that life calls your attention and moves you towards change. Because positive creates complacency and doesn't motivate. So if
Mm.
if you have a mother who's so loving, you just enjoy it, right? But if you have a mother who's harsh, you will work hard to not be that. You will work hard to change that. Like there's so much movement that darkness brings that light does not bring. And so it's about changing that relationship that when you encounter bad, it's about like, okay, that's not what I wanted. I'm not happy with it. And that's a sign that this is pointing to me what I desire, what I want of, and I'm going to work at it. But I'm also going to understand what is this calling my attention to.
Mm.
And the darkness is what moves. That's the idea. And that's what's going to push you to the next level. So we all don't want it. But if there were no darkness, there will be no evolution.
Mm.
So that's where the duality lies.
Mm.
And that's where we always have to, that's why awareness of, okay, I went with bad. Why? It always makes sense. I went with bad because I want happiness and playfulness more, and this contradicts it. Okay. So, but what is right now what is being asked of me? If you can take a step back from your value, your desires, and more think about, okay, what is being asked of me here? You will intuitively a little bit know, maybe build on my assertiveness, not a fighting towards, but an assertiveness, or building on my ability to still be loving with somebody who responds to me this way, or being maybe unaffected, and if you ask yourself what is being asked of me, most of people can tell you something. If you cannot, then you want to ask yourself, what is this creating in me? It's creating flight and fight mode. Okay. If it's fight, that means you're really strongly attached to certain values and moral and judgment. And therefore, this is triggering them. So it's bringing them to the surface for you to become aware how one you are with them. And that's all you need to know. And as long as you're one with them, you will have strong reactivity. And so that will make you a little bit ill-equipped to deal with bad, but you'll have the advantage of being strongly attuned to your value and emotions. It's always a trade-off. There's a cost benefit. For others, it will be like, oh, maybe I want to loosen up that attachment because maybe I won't be so affected and it's worth it for me. Then you decide, but suddenly this bad is bringing to your awareness the essence of who you are. Who are you? Your value, your judgment in that particular moment. And that particular moment is a result of your past and your desired future. So that's the way to think about those bad days, those bad that comes, this idea like, not again, what's going on? Like, when you lean into that, you leaning into your desires and you, but become aware, analyze that, and then decide, how do I want to change that or not change that? But then, then you bear the consequences of having reactivity, but you're at peace with it. You're like, I'm reactive to this because I want this other thing. And then you don't experience it as something happening to you or something bad. You experience it as a kind of a byproduct of your makeup, If I want happiness in the world and there's division, you know, if I'm very attached to that concept through the lens of light, well, of course I'm going to be affected negatively.
What was coming to me as you're talking there, Dr. Yasmine, Carol and I recorded an episode on responsibility, right? Being 100% responsible. And I see a lot of correlation in the things that you're talking about, right? Because it really is, and it's something you said earlier about that perspective, right? It's in your lens, in your perspective, in your experiences, your upbringing, and what you see there. And you are, it really is you asking that question and really looking at that, and really only you can do that, right? Because yeah, you can be in the same room going through the same thing, and like as you had with the car accident example, right, two different outcomes, and it's going to be impacted on that outlook, that perspective. And yeah, I really appreciate the invitation of just being curious and asking yourself that question of, and another way is like, what's the lesson, right? What is the lesson I get to learn here is something that I often will share with clients as well. And I'm getting better at asking myself that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I want to point a little thing about responsibility, because responsibility is an interesting concept. I think the way you're using responsibility is more of an ownership. It's more of an ownership.
Yeah.
Let's own what is happening within us. The problem with responsibility in the world, it's used as you have to be responsible. It's used as a have to a little bit. And therefore it introduced a little bit of a battle. It introduced a deficit and a battle. And so the moment you tell someone be responsible, usually the reaction is not positive.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
is exactly what we spoke about in our episode, and ways to shift our perspective on responsibility to where it's a place of being, and we're creating from that internal place of who we are, rather than having to do or having to carry a weight of, oh no, I'm responsible, right? And I really appreciate the way you spoke about darkness and what we can do, and using it as a tool for ourselves to point out the things that we want. I do have a question in regard to that. If I'm recognizing the benefit of darkness, and I'm always programming, right? I'm always creating thought and creating belief systems, then what's coming up for me with that is how to look at that lens, embrace that lens without taking it on as a belief system that I need to create darkness for myself.
Yes. So let me go back. You said, the way I conceptualize darkness, you can use it as a tool. That assumption creates the problem, which is that, there's a natural flow that comes, and there's nothing like this idea of retraining the mind, reprogramming the mind means that it was trained negative, means it was programmed negative. And it's very common out there, but that programming had a reason and a purpose. I mean, it's like everything is so connected. If you go back to this idea of just energy frequency and attracting this and attracting that. Like,
Mm.
so you have evolved in life through all those frequency and those thoughts, and they serve the purpose. And when it's time to change, it just changes. There's no need for effort. So I often think that your job is to be a bit more silent,
Mm.
receive and understand,
Mm.
not use anything, not use concept as a tool, not trick your mind or trick your brain, or like
Yeah.
not those pieces. Your job is almost like to have more faith
Mm.
in the flow and the beauty, with the idea that you are leaning towards your desires, your value and light,
Mm.
and therefore want to move away from the other, but the other will keep coming because that's just the ebbs and flow. That's how we evolve. You're here to have way much more internal freedom. So the moment you go to your desire, well, you have less internal freedom towards the other side because you created an obstacle. You created a resistance here.
Mm.
So I think it's more of a sitting, observing, and just understanding. Okay. And so there's a deep acceptance in my approach that the thoughts you have that are negative, um, they have their function. Everything has a function, and we will label it positive, negative, whether it is closest to our value or further away from our value. That's really what it is. The positive and negative is just almost like a compass telling you you're going closer to where you want in life.
Mm. Alex
And
Leanne had to jump, so she said, continue on. And yeah, this is amazing because to me, it takes the pressure off. And maybe even that's a perspective that I get to sit quietly, as you were saying, and look at what am I considering there when I think about pressuring myself, and like we say, what we resist persists, right? It continues on, and what we focus on grows. And to me, these are things that I know internally, or at least have believed. And so starting to question through the lens of looking at everything as a tool that is meant to benefit my life and serve me is really, you're like blowing my mind. So keep going.
I think, the idea, if everybody could embrace the idea of a mirror, and what is reflected in a mirror is you.
Mm.
You will see, you will label good or you will label bad.
Yeah.
And so people are trying to change the good and bad,
Mm.
uh, but it's more of understanding that this bad is because you have a desire for something bigger. Like I always say, like it's all about, again, you are looking at yourself in the mirror. You labeled yourself. A certain aspect may be pretty, certain aspect not pretty. Uh, so it's all about looking, okay, what is pretty for me? What is not pretty for
Mm.
me? And like really understanding and moving yourself towards your vision. So for some people, they will tell you, well, I mean, voluptuous lips is pretty. And I
Mm.
said, oh, because, and what does it represent? Well, it represents affection and love. Okay, so what you're actually saying that what you want to embody is more love. Okay,
Yeah.
and you want it through the physical. So that's the constant idea of
Yeah.
not necessarily, okay, let me go and fix my lips and make myself more beautiful. It's more like how everything is a coded message. And
Yeah.
can you look at the mirror and say, what is mirror reflecting about my deepest desire, my deepest
Mm.
uh, wishes for the way I want to be in the world, what I want to create in the world? And
Yeah.
then from there, deduct. Of course, then I won't like people who have, the looks like that or that, or, like because it's just in contrast of what I want to create.
Mhm.
And that's that. It doesn't mean that they're bad. It's just, it's a reflection of my own values, my own desires.
Removing the good and bad labels, like, because when we're in the good and bad labels, we're in judgment, right? And that was one of the things that Alex Leanne was addressing, is being curious, staying in curiosity. And for me, that is also an antidote to judgment, right? Um, because yeah, like, it's not about good and bad, right or wrong. It's being in a state of appreciation and curiosity about every single thought and experience in life. And you mentioned moving towards our vision, right? Moving towards our vision is something that we're always wanting to do. Um, and
Yes.
yeah.
I would add the duality, because what people do, again, they lean the pendulum always one way. So
Mhm.
it's about creating that space for curiosity while having emotions, while being triggered, while having a bad day, while, so we're not removing the bad. Like, it's it's impossible to always walk in a state of grace. But
Mhm.
people always want, because it feels so good when we're in the, and so it's always understanding this seeking and not being and being, like, there's, it's always there. So it's accepting the duality. Exactly, that is the key. That is the key. So curiosity gets you there, creating the space, but accepting its duality. The moment you don't have duality in your speech, you have, you're the pendulum, you have created a bit of an imbalance for yourself,
Mhm.
something that will need to be rebalanced either through you or through life coming at you.
Wow. And life does come at us, right? It definitely has for me. And that's one of the things I've loved reading in your social media, was when you were going to speak at the Global Women's event in London. You were in Paris, right? You went to London, then you went to Marabella, Spain to give your speech in Spanish, and then you went to do your TED Talk in Italy. And all of the behind the scenes that you presented, I was just like, I could so resonate, so relate. And the way you approach those experiences was very enlightening and enjoyable. I definitely could resonate with it, because I've had my own experiences that I've encountered. And so I just appreciated that so much. And I want to encourage you, my friend, that to go and follow Yasmine and go read her behind the scenes, because you made it something that was fun. You actually made it something that was enjoyable to read. It's like, really, what's next?
That's exactly right. And so for your audience to know, so I always like to shine and put light on the behind the scene, because okay, if you see me, okay, you see me now, I'm pleasant, I have a nice background, then you see my accomplishment, and you're like, oh my gosh, she hits it all the time. What's the deal? And life is never like that for anybody. We are all challenged, and that's our evolution, as I said. So yeah, in the behind the scene, you'll see how I went to give a talk on adversity. And on that journey to that talk, I had all the adversity possible, imaginable. And at the end, you have to laugh because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah, it
And
was. It was to the point where it was like, really? And then that? Really? And and then that? And then that? It's like, wow.
yeah, that day I was like, I don't know, something in the stars, or the universe is writing my speech for me, or I don't know what happened. And then sometimes, that's the thing. Sometimes you have no idea what the message is, what the decoding is, what you're being asked of.
Mhm.
But this is where you bring you. And I decided that, okay, well, I'm gonna use it for me. So I'm gonna use it to relax. And the reality is, by the end of the trip, I had gone through so much stress that I couldn't care less about the speech. because I was like, am I even getting there? Like, so it was a total distressor that I'm like, I've been through so much. If this speech goes well or doesn't go well, I could not care less. I'm gonna go and give it and we're done. So I used it as okay, well, and I went on stage and I was the most relaxed I've ever been because everything leading up to there was so stressful that it made me detach from the outcome totally.
Hmm. Wow, yeah, that's incredible. It's so powerful. And I like the way you said, I'm just going to be me and who you chose to be in each and every one of those moments. And then utilizing that as a de-stressor, letting go of the outcome, like you said. That has been a huge part of my journey, especially this year with the obstacles that I've been through. It's like, all right, I just get to be on the journey. Let go. It's going to be okay. And it seems like it definitely keeps presenting itself. Life keeps presenting itself to me that way. Um, I want to change directions for a moment and ask you a little bit about how you got started. I know you were talking about an internship supporting AIDS recently, and yeah, so I wanted to hear a little bit about your beginning journey that people may not be aware of.
Yes, I'll go even further than that. So for people who know, I'm Lebanese. I grew up in Paris, and in Paris at the time, by age 18, you had to decide your specialty,
Mm.
because you go on math track, philosophy track, and so at 16, you start deciding. And so I was very good in math, and so I decided. That this was going to be the death of me. A business life, just sitting on a desk managing people's money. And I looked into, okay, what do I like? And as you can see, I have a melodious tone of voice. People will always come and seek out help. So I decided I'm going to be a psychologist. And then I went to my mom and I told her, and she was, oh my God, it's made for you. Then I went to my dad and said, have you lost your mind? Like, we're Lebanese, we immigrated to Paris, France. So there's the idea of providing for oneself. There's the idea of safety. And
Mhm.
psychology is not safe at all level. You deal with other people's negative emotion. So
Yeah.
your well-being is not safe. Financially is not a profession that brings money. But my father gave me the out. He says, I told you, but you do what you want. So I went and I did what I want. And I became a psychologist and I took in what he had told me, and which he always wanted me to be the best. This is where you see the positive and negative. I had a father who's tough, really tough. And when you're growing up, you're like, oh my God. But now afterwards, you realize, oh my God, I used everything. Thank God that was the training. And
Yeah.
so I became the best. Then became a psychologist 23 in Paris. And who's going to see a psychologist 23? I mean, but I went the farther I could go. I went fast. So I decided to come to the US. I did my PhD, and I loved it. And then I got my first job in a clinic. And I saw 12 patients a day. It was insane. I lasted
Wow.
6 months. Like, this is not the life I want. And
That's a
then
lot.
that's a lot. And then I got offered a job at Montefiore Medical Center in the AIDS clinic, in the mental health clinic for AIDS. And at the time, AIDS was just at this breaking point where we're starting to be able to heal people. And so I started as the psychologist for all the patients who were diagnosed with HIV and AIDS. And I learned all the medical components. So I really learned the intricacy between body and mind and everything that goes along with it.
Wow.
And I loved it. I loved my patient. I did therapy in Spanish. I did therapy in English. It was lovely and it was so dear to my heart. And I love the patients. Some of them passed away. Some of them were just at the cups where we were able to keep people alive. And so they're still thriving and are following me. And it's so lovely.
Mm.
And then I started opening my private practice and I became the psychologist for the staff. So I had this dual role where I was dealing with really people who were on the low socioeconomic background, in the clinic at
Yeah.
Montefiore center, and then I have my private practice with the directors of OBGYN, the chairman, that I had all the chairman, the director, all the doctors that needed help,
Yeah.
I would see. And I had this
Wow.
duality, always had this duality. So that's why AIDS is so dear to my heart.
Mhm.
And then I became an assistant professor at Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and I trained resident in psychiatry nationally. And then I started training psychologists. And it came a point where I reached a high level quickly.
Yeah.
And I decided, okay, it's time. It doesn't provide me more. So I'm going to go on to my next. And I went full force in my own private practice, and then expanding it to other people than just doctors. And then I created my group practice with the idea that I really want to help psychologists build their own and have a more balanced life for myself. And
Yeah.
so I created the group practice that now is in Inc. 5000, which is very exciting. And I started embracing traditional Chinese medicine and blending East and West. So this is the journey from the AIDS to there's multifaceted to my life. I did internship in Lebanon. I did internship in Paris. I did internship in many places all over the world,
Wow.
wherever I would go.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you grew up in Paris. Paris is one of my favorite cities in the world. It's beautiful. I have family in France, and yeah, so I definitely can appreciate the place where you were raised at, and then your parents mentioning the support of your mother and the toughness of your father, but you being able to make your own decision and move forward with what you wanted to do, and recognizing the duality, right, of the directors versus those with lower income and the work that you did there. And it's very interesting, the way to hear your journey has evolved and who you've become over time. And I've seen you become much more powerful even in the 2 years that I've known you. And I don't know if that is a particular focus. I think the focus, from what I understand you to say, is that you've had a vision and it's about this impact that you want to have. Now, how many therapists do you have working in your practice now? I know it's quite large, and
40. I
40.
Yes, I think what's been um, a salient point in my journey is I've changed so much. So people see exponential growth.
Mm.
And I think it's just by embracing what's coming at me through life. So,
Wow.
for example, the group practice was born out of a miscarriage. I was at the hospital. I decided I'm going to go in my private practice. I'm going to build a family. And the miscarriage really tuned me into imbalances in my body, tuned me into my desire for a child and for being there for a child, and therefore the need to create a different life for myself. And also led me to embrace modalities that I would have never,
Mm.
like at the time, the Eastern, yeah, was not that popular. So when I embarked on a traditional Chinese medicine journey that opened my eyes, and then that I end up integrating and in my teaching to psychologists, to patients, so the way I think of it is we're on a boat and you can stop on the right or on the left, but life will have the detour, and your job is to go and see what comes and see what's
Yeah.
coming your way. Like I never in a million years, if you told me where I am today, never. If you tell me you're gonna live your life in the US, what? And that you will marry who I marry. What? Like you will build this gigantic company that's going to be in 5,000. So what? I think you have the wrong person. You will be on TV, on all those medias. Like you never know what life has for you.
Yeah.
And also it's a lot of it is my creation. You want to be aware that this is both a measure of how lucky I got and the opportunities I take. And it carries the duality of ease
Yeah.
and effort in every step of the way.
Yeah, wow. And I appreciate you speaking about creation because for many of us who have felt disempowered in our lives or felt like we've grown up in that way, the fact that we do have way more power than we recognize, and you're an inspiration in that light and in the way that you embrace life. And as you said, the journey, but you have attracted this journey to you and participated in the creation of it. And I just want to thank you for being here. I want to ask you, as we begin to wrap up our journey together here today, what would you like to leave us with, especially in regard to, you've spoken into the decoding, and I want you to share what you would like us to understand as far as living an unleashed and unstoppable life, your final words on this.
What I want to leave everybody with is that you're as much supported as you're challenged, but your mind will see more of one of the other. You will see more challenge in your journey or more support in your journey based on what you desire and what you value. So if you can see the way you're experiencing life as a really reflection of your desire and value, so that you can decode those and create more of what you desire while embracing what you do not desire, so that you don't create resistance to it. And do this work again and again with everything that's presenting itself to you through thoughts, through emotion, through relationship, through life event. And you will be full of so much wisdom, and you'll fast track your road to what you want, and you'll expand in a way that is lightning speed, lightning speed. So I want to leave everybody with that and with embracing duality as a way of moving forward in life. And I really want to thank you, Carol. I feel you have a deep place in my heart. I feel we're very connected, you and I want to thank you and Alex so much and for having me here. I love talking about all of this, and I feel like this has been a wonderful conversation, and it's heart to heart. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. I do have one final thing. Where can people connect with you?
So, I mean, on Instagram at the doctor dot Yasmine with the E at the end and Sad with the double A. I every day I give a piece of value every day. So it's great there. If you prefer LinkedIn or Facebook, I'm also there. So those are the best ways. But if you only the best thing, just remember my name, Yasmine Sad, like from the jasmine flower. Sad means happiness and prosperity in Arabic. I'm the flower that emit happiness. If you can remember that, the flower that emit happiness, Yasmine Sad.
I love that.
Remember that, Google that name, and everything will show up on Google. So you can find me. My group practice, my speaking engagement, all my social media, wherever you want, and pick what works best for you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us. And it's been a treasure and an honor to have you. And I'm so thank you. You're my sister. Yeah.
Oh, so much, so much. I feel it in my heart. Thank you. Thank you so much, Carol.
You're welcome. We'll see you next week. Ciao for now.
Sounds
Okay.
good. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review, and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.